Hi, I'm Ken Morton Jr. I'm with MortonGolfSales.com and our flagship golf shop, Hagen Oaks Golf Super Shop. We have a lot of customers that pose lots of questions to us each and every day, and there's probably one that's posed more than all of the others, and that's what kind of golf shaft should I use? Well, there's lots of different shafts, and there have been lots of different shafts over the years. And so what we're going to talk about today is give you a little history on golf shafts and then some differentiations on how you can pick which shaft might be best for you. Now, if you like this particular topic or you'd like to see more of these, subscribe to us and you can see our videos on YouTube anytime that we post a new one here. So first up, we're going to go way back, I mean way back, over 100 years and talk about hickory golf shafts. First up, looking back a century or so, is the hickory golf shaft. Now at one time, all shafts were made out of wood. And that was a really good thing for one reason, is that it had flex. If you think of about a branch on a tree and how it can move, having the flex in it actually made people hit it farther. The drawback to it, however, was that it was not very consistent and it was very heavy. Depending on where you got your wooden shafts from, varied greatly on how much they weighed and how they performed. PGA Tour players would know by following the tour around different parts of the US, a shaft that was picked up in Florida where it's real humid would play much different than one that was made and picked up in California without that humidity. They weighed a lot. So a typical hickory shaft weighed somewhere in the 250 to 400 gram range. Most of the time somewhere around 300 grams. And we'll talk a little bit about that's very, very heavy. And most importantly, they were not very durable. It was not uncommon, especially here at the hosel part, for the people to actually break shafts at the tip, and they would have to have them replaced fairly frequently. So while they had a great place to start, moving to a metal, not quite steel yet, in aluminum, which we'll talk about next, was the way to go. So from hickory, they wanted to move to something that they could actually control the consistency of and, more importantly, lighten up a lot. And so they went to an aluminum shaft. Now this one's been darkened a little bit, but under the underlay, it's actually an aluminum shaft. And the big benefit is that they were able to drop that weight down to under 300 grams and get it down to around 250 grams for an aluminum shaft. And more importantly, the consistency and the durability went dramatically higher. Now, aluminum, as you can imagine, thinking about like a Coke can, is very, very, very soft metal. And again, wasn't going to be nearly as durable as stainless steel or some of the other metals that they were going to use in different materials that they were going to use later on down the road. But from a weight standpoint, it was that next evolution, and it was just within a couple years that no one was using hickory shafts and everyone had moved to aluminum shafts. But their time was going to come too, and slowly they're going to move to steel shafts. That brings us into modern times. Now, the steel shaft has been dramatically different since it first came out and in what it is in these modern day and ages. But what it was super durable, and it was very, very consistent from golf club to golf club. And that's why in today's day and age, especially in things like putters, wedges, irons, it's still used very much in its design. And they have been able to, with new technology, get the weight down even farther. So again, typically a steel shaft was weighing in the 125 gram, 130 gram range, which allowed them to lighten up the overall golf club a lot. But nowadays, they actually, with technology, can even get the gram range down in the 85 to 90 gram range, which is nearly the weight of some of the early graphite shafts. But what pros and better players really like with the steel shaft is that consistency and that low torque. So torque is the part of the shaft that twists this way, not the flex that we think that bends from the top to the bottom like a branch would bend. Steel shafts have a very, very low torque. So when you're thinking about consistency and thinking about trying to get something where it travels in the right direction consistently and not to the left and the right, steel is a very, very, very good use of that material so that it doesn't have a lot of twist this way. When you hit a golf club on the heel and toe, it actually puts twist on that shaft. So if you can make that torque really low, it's going to twist less, it's going to keep that ball in the fairway. And when we're hitting towards a target on a green, why they like using it in irons, that torque can be a big benefit to you out on the golf course. But again, there was one more material that they were going to bring to golf that was really going to change everything, and that's graphite. And then in the late 80s, early 90s, graphite really took it over. Now, what graphite is, it's actually a carbon material, and they actually think of it like a piece of paper that they roll up into a tube that you look through, and then they actually laminate it with glue and adhesives. And the benefit to graphite is threefold. The first is that the overall weight is extremely light. So most graphite shafts in woods are going to be somewhere between 45 and about 75 grams. Again, that's about half the weight of steel. In Japan, they have some prototype shafts that actually have been sub 30 grams, which again is just mind-boggling. It's actually less weight than a Bic pen. And we're going to continue to see that get less and less. So by making that really lightweight shaft, they can get the overall club weight much lighter and should generate more club head speed. The other big thing that they do, and point number 2 with graphite shafts, is that the materials that's used naturally has a material in it called Kevlar. Now, you might have heard that material. It's used in bulletproof vests. When you hit a thin shot or one out on the toe in the wintertime, you actually get that stinging feeling in your hands when you're using steel shafts. Graphite, because of its nature of its makeup, is actually going to absorb a lot of that shock. And what that's going to do, it's actually going to be easier on the joints. So because of that, graphite has become a much better shaft for seniors and people that have joint issues to use versus a steel shaft, because it's going to be much easier on the body. And then the other big thing with graphite is the consistency. Because of that weave that they do with the carbon fibers and the technology, and it wasn't always that way. When graphite first came out, it was very inconsistent. But in today's day and age, there is unparalleled consistency with graphite shafts because of the technology that goes with it. Nearly every shaft is actually matched, so they're equal torque and they're equal flex from one another. And when you're looking for a full set of golf clubs, that consistency from your pitching wedge all to your driver makes it easier to play and makes it much easier to play your best golf. So we've talked a lot about shafts. Now, how do we pick the very best one for you? So I'm assuming you're not going to want to play with hickory or aluminum shafts, but you're going to need to decide between a steel shaft and a graphite shaft. And how do you know which one's better? So in a very general sense, a better player, and I'll say a better player is probably an 8 or 10 handicap and below for sure, maybe as high as a 15, in their irons is going to want to probably consider a steel shaft. The steel is going to be a little bit more consistent from iron to iron. Typically, the little bit heavier weight, a better player likes that type of feel. And steel has a different feel than graphite does. Graphite, because it deadens, because of that Kevlar, that carbon that we talked about in it, doesn't transmit the feel from the head to the hands quite as well as a steel shaft does. And that feel is everything for a better player. And so in irons specifically, better players might consider that steel shaft for that very reason. Now, a lot of better players are using graphite because the overall weight does allow you to hit that club farther. So if distance is the key reason you're picking your irons, not necessarily consistency or accuracy, but if distance, then the graphite might be a way to go. Any ladies, any seniors, any player that has for sure a 20 handicap or above, or again, maybe as low as a 15 handicap, consider that graphite shaft. You're going to hit that ball farther, and again, for reasons of keeping your joints safe and all that kind of stuff, the graphite is a great way to go. So back when this beard was a little less gray and a little bit more brown, I used steel. As I've gotten older and I've needed that distance, I too have moved to graphite. The benefit of maintaining that distance and actually hitting the ball a little bit farther and playing my best golf, I have given up in the steel and gone to graphite to play my best golf. What we'd advise for you is actually go out and try both. That's one of the beauties about our Hagen Oaks Golf Super Shop, is you can actually try them free of charge out on the driving range. And our team at mortongolfsales.com are experts and can provide you great advice as well. Again, if you like this topic, ring the bell, subscribe. We've got lots more content coming your way. And in the meantime, enjoy playing some more golf.